Right at the start of this video, while I've still got your attention, I need to hit you with one really important statement, and that is, please invest your time, knowledge, and money into a good first aid system. I show a lot of insanely sharp edges on this channel, and I know you guys love to see them, and I love producing them and using them, not knocking that. But what I don't show enough is how to properly prepare yourself to be safe with those tools and to take action in case of an accident. The title of this video is not an overstatement. Yesterday my wife and I went to the cabin with the intentions of spending the afternoon there, and by mistake of my own, a poor choice. I'm always very careful with how I use my tools, very cautious, but again, it only takes one little careless mistake, and I ended up in a very serious situation. I spent a lot of yesterday in the hospital, and I'm somewhat bedridden today. I'm around the house, and I'll be, I'm sure, a while recovering. While splitting a little bit of wood, I put this little Holtzbrook hatchet, this is the Christmas hatchet I showed a little while ago, straight into my thigh. And a very, very serious injury. Immediately I pulled off, it went straight through my snow pants. I pulled off my snow pants, and I was looking at a huge gaping wound. You could look in and see the muscle. Blood started pouring out. It's extremely gruesome. My wife started to panic, but I happen to have this little first aid kit. Now, I'm not boasting that my first aid setup is so wonderful, but this is likely, honestly, the reason I'm alive right now. You see, this is a little tiny kit that I put together probably 2 years ago. I've never opened it up since I done it. It's just been passed around from bag to bag. I always take it with me, just honestly never thinking anything would happen to me, but it looks impressive to have a first aid kit. But yesterday it really likely saved my life. As I said, blood started pouring out of this wound. I had a bunch of maxi pads kept in there that I learned from Nothing Fancy to control bleeding or to help blood clotting. So my wife and I sort of packed those on the wound. Blood was gushing out. I had a big pressure wrap bandage that I ran around and around my leg, and just really binded it tight. And then we were up at the cabin, about 10 minutes skidoo ride from town. So I made it out to the skidoo. We drove down the trail. We made it to my grandparents' house, which is as soon as you enter town from the trail, my grandparents' house right there. And luckily, my dad was there plowing snow. So I pulled up. I said, I have my leg cut. We need to go right away. So we jumped in the car and rushed about 40-minute drive to the nearest hospital. I had lost a lot of blood by this point. They rolled me into the trauma room in a wheelchair. Blood was literally trailing, dripping down the hallway beneath me as it was sort of filling up my my winter boot I had on. They put me on the bed. There were, all in all, there ended up being 2 doctors and half a dozen nurses trying to stop the blood. The blood was literally, with my heartbeat pulsing and spraying out of my leg. It was very, very traumatic, somewhat emotional, very painful for me, of course. The doctor said that the actual cut ended up being about 3 inches long, the length of my about 3 inches long, and actually about 2.5 inches deep. I sunk the axe straight in through my leg, right down into the muscle just above my knee. A vicious cut and very extreme ordeal. I didn't mention, after I got the pressure bandage and the packing of the wound done, I made it back down to my grandparents' house. We got in the car with my dad. I grabbed some paracord that I had there and tied off my thigh above the wound to create sort of a tourniquet system. to slow the blood. And the whole way, the 40-minute drive to the hospital, my leg didn't really bleed with that tight tourniquet and the tight packing. When I got to the hospital, not to boast about my abilities in any way, but the surgeon, the doctor on staff, they said that I couldn't have done any better than I did. And that's only because I had this first aid kit. Again, from the time I cut my leg to the time doctors were actually working on me, it was probably close to an hour. And I mean, the amount of blood loss was really difficult to take in, difficult to look at. So safe to say, I'm pretty shook up. I've got a pretty nasty wound. The cut was straight into the muscle, so they had to stitch up inside my leg, so the muscle itself, and then of course a run of stitching outside to actually close up the leg. It's probably going to be a while before I'm back really using it, but I pray for a speedy recovery. Coming back to my opening statements, guys, I've really been reawakened to the idea of how important a good first aid kit is. My kit is empty here now because I used pretty much everything I had in it yesterday and packed on that wound. And if I hadn't have had those items in the kit, I really don't know if I'd be here talking to you right now. And I'm not trying to be dramatic or overstating it, but that's really how serious it was. So, like I said, I've been reawakened to the idea of how important a kit is to have. And I'm really going to be investing, researching, and upping my knowledge after this incident. And I'm going to build a better kit, be more prepared next time. And I'm going to take you guys along with me, show you what I'm doing, show you what I'm investing in. And it's going to be a bigger topic on this channel because I think it needs to be talked about more. So to conclude this video, please, I'm going to be taking you along, but if you're out using these tools, don't wait for me to put out the information on it. There are tons of informational videos. Invest in your kit, invest in your knowledge. If you haven't already, read up on how to control a gaping wound or a large gash or cut. Read up on it. Make sure your kit can handle a big cut like that. I know lots of people carry band-aids and things like that, a little bit of gauze, but if you're swinging an axe, especially sharp like axes we've been talking about here on the channel, you could do a lot of damage really quickly. So please stay tuned to my upcoming videos, do your own research, prepare your kit, and stay tuned.